Good Wednesday afternoon, guys. I'm Jerry Miller, and welcome to the I Love CVille Show. Thank you kindly for joining us, the Wednesday edition of the program with a Charlottesville, Central Virginia, Commonwealth, country, and worldwide audience on the I Love CVille Network. We're presented by Skooma Boutique Dispensary, the best dispensary in Charlottesville. Skooma Boutique Dispensary with locations on the downtown mall and on Elliewood Avenue right off the UVA corner. So much to cover on today's program. The economy shrunk more than expected. We talked about this yesterday. There's got to be some kind of gap or distance or something missing here. You and I, viewers and listeners of the show, you and I, Judah Wickower and I, we go out on Main Street, drive home, drive to work, go get some food. We realize that the dollar is not going as far. We're just now getting the data that the economy shrunk more than expected. We've been living this, Judah and I, you the viewer and listener, for most of 2022. We've been screaming this for months on this program. Now the data justifies it. It's certainly in the rears and a pain point we've been feeling all along. We'll let you know just how much on today's program. We'll also talk about a congressional candidate. This gentleman's name is Josh Thronberg. He's challenging Bob Good in the 5th Congressional District. Josh Thronberg is a father, a husband, a minister, and a business owner. His campaign is a campaign that is people-powered, self-proclaimed a people-powered campaign. Well, this week, Thronberg made the unexpected and surprising announcement of shutting down his business. His business, Nooks and Crannies, an eco-friendly home cleaning business. And when Josh Thronberg announced to his staff that the cleaning company would stop servicing its customers and clients through the end of 2022, many of the team members on the Nooks and Crannies cleaning team were hearing it for the first time. So a congressional candidate who's got a campaign that's all about the people is shutting down his business, much to the chagrin of the team members at Nooks and Crannies. We'll talk about that today on the program. I think this is a little bit of news that's going to make its way into the traditional or legacy news cycle after today's program. We're going to relay to you on today's show the monthly rent, or at least the asking price for rent at the place formerly known as LittleJohn's. It's going to shock you. It's going to astonish you. And you will now not be surprised to know that the place is still empty and open. We'll talk about that on today's show. We'll highlight later in the week a new business that's coming on the market for sale here in Charlottesville and Central Virginia, a business and brand that you guys know and love. We'll talk about price points, what's included in the deal, what's included in the ask, and how you, the viewer and listener, can potentially purchase this business. We'll also highlight on today's show a very special guest that's on the near horizon for Friday. Melissa Close Hart will be in studio, one of our favorite chefs in Central Virginia. She's known for her time at Junction. She's known for her time at the Local. She's an all-around talented chef, fantastic person. She's now going to be the executive chef and part owner of the newly inspired Mockingbird restaurant. It's in the old Junction location. So Melissa on the show on Friday to highlight the menu, the new restaurant, to highlight the fact that she's an owner, she's the executive chef, and what we, the community, can expect from Mockingbird in downtown Belmont as it looks for a new beginning following the Junction brand. So much to cover on the program. Judy, you got the two-shot ready to go?
Yeah.
Let's go to the two-shot. I'd like to first wish you a good afternoon. How are you, my friend?
I'm good.
What has tickled your fancy of late? I'm sure the GDP number was not something that resonated well with you, certainly left a bitter taste in my mouth. The U.S. economy shrank at an annualized pace of 1.6% in the first quarter, reflecting a deeper contraction than previously reported. We've been talking about it all along. We touched on this yesterday. And finally, the data is just now coming out. The GDP number is ugly, 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 to say the best. Your thoughts?
Yeah, it's definitely not good. I mean, you know, what are you going to say? It's, you know, they've been crushing the economy for the last 2 years. It's not really unexpected that that GDP numbers would be horrendous.
Sammy's on the corner is closed, Scott Aaronworth. Thank you for asking that question. That briefly replaced LittleJohn's for a hiccup or a New York cup of coffee. A New York Minute, now closed. Look, you got ugliness out there. We talked on it yesterday. You got a president, Kevin Higgins sent me a message, King of Greenwood. We love when you offer contributions to the talk show. You got a president that's not being respected by a lot of his colleagues and peers in the world right now.
You're talking about the Macron?
I mean, how would you characterize it? Do you want to set the stage? Set the stage for the viewers and listeners.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say in that case he was being disrespected. It was.
I mean, he was interrupted.
Well, he was outside. He wasn't doing anything.
Set the stage for the viewers and listeners.
From what I understand, he was outside. He had some reporters around. Macron came up and
let them know who Macron is. Set the stage. Not everyone follows the stuff as closely as we do.
The French president approached him and mentioned to him that that the countries that he will be visiting, I believe next month, I think it's the United Arab Emirates and Saudi Arabia, do not have the capacity to increase production by nearly as much as we would like. And so it's likely that Biden's trip to the Middle East is not going to produce much in the way of results.
Right. I mean, you got a guy who, you saw the cue cards, right? With Biden?
No, I didn't see any cue cards.
Or they're utilizing cue cards to tell the president when to sit and stand.
Okay.
Cue cards.
I mean, presidents have used, maybe not cue cards, but they've used teleprompters for, you know, years and years and years. I don't know enough about the cue cards to say anything about the president's state of mind.
Does anyone have a sense of confidence in like one or two people being like the hand-picked people that are going to be like, lead us out of this uncertainty? Like, is that going to be Powell? Is that going to be Biden? Who is going to lead the country out of this into a better situation?
I think the better question is who's going to lead us through it, because I don't think there's any leading out of it.
Well, who's going to lead us? Who's the guy? Who's the gal? I mean, have you thought, these are the kinds of things that I think about. Who's going to lead us? All right, through it is a better description, like you just said. Who's the guy or the gal?
I don't know if there is one. At this point, I don't think, you know, I think...
What does Biden have, 18 months left on his term?
I think Biden
is... It's 18 months, right? He started in 2000. He's got 18 months left.
Something like that.
Think about that.
Yeah.
18 months. Is the person who leads us through this the next president?
That would be nice.
I mean, who is the guy or the gal?
I don't know if there is a person who can do it.
We talk about the institutional memory. Let's just compare Charlottesville to the country. John Blair, hello, welcome to the program. Take Charlottesville. You don't have a full-time city manager. You don't have a full-time police chief. You got a consultant city manager and interim police chief. You got the former city manager suing the city. You still got a lot of positions open in City Hall. You still got a lot of uncertainty with Charlottesville from a stability standpoint, although it's stabilized. Who takes Charlottesville through this? Is it the people that are elected to council next year? I mean, notice Michael Payne has launched the public access television show. City Councilor Michael Payne. Yet another indicator that Michael Payne's going to run for re-election. You don't launch a television show like Michael Payne's doing when he has 18 months left in his term as well. He started on council the same time Biden started in the White House. Michael Payne, I would expect, would announce in the next, I don't know, you generally do it at the end of this year or early next year, that he's going to run for re-election. Are the people that are going to lead the country in Charlottesville out of this doom and gloom the next batch of politicians elected?
That would be nice. I think, I think for someone to start leading us, it would require a lot of humility. I don't know if we have politicians starting or in the business, so to speak, now who have the requisite humility to just take advice from quarters that have it to provide and do what needs to be done.
Good call, Scott Aaronworth. He corrects Judah and I. Biden started in 2021, not 2020. 2021, so we took a year off his presidency right there. 2021 and not 2020 like the counselor started. Thank you for correcting us, Scott. Good catch, Scott Aaronworth. I mean, it's just... And the GDP, the number released today that shows how much the economy is shrinking. I mean, the last quarter marked the first drop in GDP since the second quarter of 2020. The COVID-19 pandemic upended the global economy. In the fourth quarter of 2021, real GDP increased 6.9%. We need something to invigorate the market or the economy. It's not going to be rates. It's not going to be inflation. It's not going to be supply chain. It's not going to be labor. It's not going to be geopolitical tension. All that stuff is headwinds. What is the tailwind that invigorates the market and helps navigate or has enough momentum to power through the headwinds? What is it? What is it? What's it going to be? Is it people? Is it an election? And the end of a war? I mean, yesterday, I re-listened to yesterday's show, and I rarely re-listen to the show. I was clinging as host of this show to the somewhat opening of China from lockdowns as a positive headwind that can help get us through this crap. China, across the globe, opening their country from quarantine was my positive. Gas prices at $4.63 versus $5 was my positive. In the grand scheme of things, how positive are those things?
Not very, unfortunately. I mean, China's definitely not the answer. I mean, they've got Evergrande defaulting. They've spent way too much on a high-speed rail system that isn't paying for itself. I don't think them letting people out of...
I mean, it's going to help some because they're such a populous country and they've been on lockdown for so long. Does anyone understand why they're on lockdown now with the vaccines that are readily available? I don't. There are vaccines everywhere. Pretty much every country in the world has not gone on lockdown and has utilized the vaccine, and for the most part, has had success with COVID.
Yeah.
I don't understand the quarantining. Do you? I mean, outside of maybe government control, let's continue to manipulate and control the Chinese people as Chinese government tries to maintain authority and control over them. Maybe it's that.
I mean, that seems like just, chambering the shotgun and pointing it at your foot.
Right. Great call. That's exactly what it seems. Great call.
I don't think they would just do it out of, a perverse sense of need
they
for
manipulate
control.
The news.
Well, yeah.
They kidnap people. They murder people. How many kids have they killed? Daughters have they killed? Girls that are born?
But that's a big leap from
murdering babies
destroying
and
your own economy.
And making sure people stay in their homes during COVID, a pandemic. Is it a big of a leap?
Yeah, I think that's a pretty damn big leap.
What, viewers and listeners, what is the piece of news? What is the data point that is going to offer the momentum and the tailwind to push us positively forward through the vast headwinds in front of us? Is it Russia-Ukraine ending?
That would help.
Russia-Ukraine ending, commodities, it helps.
Gas,
changes the news cycle, Russia-Ukraine would. We'd stop hearing rates, inflation, and recession for a little bit of time. We would for a little bit of time. Russia-Ukraine peace treatying would put inflation, recession, and rates rising not as the primary news cycle driver. For a short time.
Taking it out of the news doesn't mean it's gone, though.
No, fair. But taking it out of the news slows the brainwashing that comes with the news cycle.
I mean,
and to your point, an Eastern story like Russia-Ukraine, the war stopping, that's not going to have the same news cycle momentum as an Eastern story or a domestic story.
I mean, I don't care about the news cycle. You're acting like it being out of the news cycle is going to fix things, and it's not. It's not going to stop inflation.
The news cycle has a tremendous impact on this country.
It does, but people aren't stupid, and they're not going to all of a sudden think, oh, hey, Russia's out of the news, I'm going to go out and spend lots of money. I mean, they're already feeling the pinch to their pocketbooks.
You don't think people correlate Russia-Ukraine and gas prices? You don't think people correlate Russia-Ukraine and supply chain issues?
Yes,
I think, and commodity issues?
But just taking Russia out of the news cycle is not necessarily going to affect any of those things.
Russia's not even in the news cycle now. It's not in the news cycle now. What is the last time?
Okay, so what's your point?
My point is Russia-Ukraine, the war ending would be new news that would come front and center to traditional media and would take inflation, recession, and rising rates out of the news cycle briefly, and Russia-Ukraine ending, a positive story, could at least a short period of time overshadow the negative storylines that are recession, inflation, and rates rising. That's all I'm saying.
I kind of see what you're saying, but
that's all I'm saying.
But if the numbers don't support people going out, it doesn't matter what the news is going to be saying. They're still going to see high prices at the pump, if there are high prices at the pump after this event you're talking about. They're still going to see, high prices in grocery stores. They're still going to see high prices everywhere. And I think at this point, at the point you're talking about, whether it's a week or a month from now, people have been probably at the very least chipping away at their savings. At worst, probably racking up some new credit card debt or loan debt. And I think that a little bit of good news on the news stations is not going to faze them much. It's going to be summer, middle of summer, end of summer, who knows, if what you're talking about happens. And I just don't see a whole lot of change.
Time will tell. Time will tell. We'll see if we can keep making some sense of it on the show today and on shows moving forward. I don't think this is a head scratching story that I'm about to relay to everybody. I don't know what to make of it yet. I would expect that Bob Good's camp is going to run wild with this. Okay? In the 5th Congressional District, the incumbent is Bob Good. He's a Republican. He's going to face a Democratic challenger, and his name is Josh Thronberg. Josh Thronberg is a father, a husband, a minister, and a business owner. Well, as a very valued viewer of this program, and I'm not going to use your name because I don't know if you gave me approval to use your name when passing this along. I'm going to say his initials are JC. JC are his initials. And he sent me this storyline. JC did. And he said, have you seen this? And he sent me a link to Josh Thronberg's company website and Josh Thronberg's, an article about him from Charlottesville Tomorrow. Mm-hmm. The article from Charlottesville Tomorrow is the traditional candidate profile, right? Talks about the who, what, when, where, why of the candidate, why they're running for this position. Charlotte Renee Woods, a fabulous journalist for Charlottesville Tomorrow, wrote the article. The headline of the article, Democrat congressional candidate Josh Thronberg is creating a people-powered campaign. His campaign's all about people. I want to go grassroots, right? Make them likable, J-Dubs. Well, recently, it's been brought to my attention that Thronberg, surprisingly, unexpectedly, and out of the blue, closed his business. His business, CVilleNooksandCrannies.com. Find him online. CVilleNooksandCrannies.com. The first thing you see when you go to the website is a message on the homepage that says the Nooks and Crannies service has been suspended until the end of the year 2022. Thank you for visiting. I'm relaying to the viewers and listeners the following, Judah. And then I'm going to ask the questions that I would ask as a curious person. A, why did the candidate close his business? Did he close his business strictly because the campaign was getting overwhelming and he needed to allocate time to a run for Congress versus running his locally owned cleaning service, eco-friendly cleaning service? The second question I have, did he notify his team members that he was closing the business for the rest of the year? The follow-up question to question 2, did he give them ample notification to find other jobs or help them from a pay standpoint as they were basically left in employment purgatory out of work?
Yeah.
Because your campaign can't be for the people. If you're then going to take your team members, walk in one day to work and say, hey, the business is shut down, you're not getting a paycheck for the rest of the year, I'm doing other things. Because those are contradictions. You can't have a grassroots campaign that's of fighting and championing the voice of the little guy if you then go into your cleaning service business and say, surprise, surprise, everyone who works for me, the business is shut down, you're on your own to find a paycheck, sorry, best of luck moving forward. Mm-hmm. So those are questions I got. Fair questions, you think? I think fair.
I think they're definitely fair questions, and we don't have the answers to those. I would, if I had to guess, I would say that he feels like what he could accomplish in government is worth putting his business on hold. We obviously don't know the effects on his employees or former employees. We don't know how much lead time he gave them. We don't know if he's helping.
That's what I want to know.
We don't know if he's helping them in the interim. They're all good questions, though.
How much do you? What do you think the starting salary is of a congressman or woman? Congressman or congresswoman? What do you think the starting salary is?
Congressman or woman starting salary, I just at a guess, I don't know, $120,000 a year.
It's a good guess. $174,000 a year.
Man, I think I'm going to run for Congress.
If you win, Bob Good's up for re-election. If he wins back-to-back campaigns, like he already won one. They're up every 2 years. You win back-to-back campaigns, you start getting some of this pay and some of these bennies in perpetuity.
Yeah.
So if you're the owner of a cleaning service and you scratch your head and you say, if I win this campaign, I can make $174,000 a year plus bennies.
Plus kickbacks and bribes.
Connections, network, and the potential to run again. In a district that has a heavy Democratic influence, Charlottesville's in it. Maybe he's weighing the pros and cons and saying, I'm going to shut down Nooks and Crannies. Mm-hmm. Probably not going to clear me $1.74 a year. And I'm going to go balls to the wall, all in on my campaign. The question is this. If you're on the Bob Good side of the fence, and you're a Bob Good campaign staffer, do you somehow get in contact or connection with one of the employees of Nooks and Crannies? Because if Bob Good's campaign got in contact with a Nooks and Crannies staff member, an employee of Josh's company, and said, give us the flip book of what happened when he shut down this business.
And you're saying it can be easy to smear him.
It can be used against him. I hope he's seen this, he's thought this through. Because if he randomly just went one day, and we don't know, we're having a conversation for the sake of a talk show. If he randomly went in one day to the Nooks and Crannies office and called a team meeting and said, I'm shutting the business down. You guys are on your own for work. And he didn't give them the proper heads up, I'd say that would be something that should come up in a grassroots people first campaign. Do you agree?
Yeah.
Would you say that's dirty?
No, I wouldn't say that's dirty. I think
if you were in that position, you won't think you were done wrong?
I thought you were talking about...
if you were the employee of the team...
I thought you were talking about...
of the company. Would you feel like that was dirty?
Spreading the news, yeah. If I was told, hey, I'm running for Congress, we're going to close the business down for the rest of the year.
Go find a job. There's no more pay here for you.
Yeah, You'd be
pissed.
I'd be a little spicy.
Right, you'd be a little spicy. Probably be willing to talk about it.
Oh, definitely.
Let's see if that comes out.
Yeah, I mean, we'll definitely have to wait and see how this actually played out, because we don't know.
What do you think the monthly rent for LittleJohn is? Well, you already know. You saw it put into that. Do you remember it?
I think it was an ungodly number.
LittleJohn's asking right now rent for LittleJohn's on the UVA corner. Monthly rent.
Was it
$12,500. $12,500.
That's just for the space?
Just for the space. You don't own it. You're renting it. It's about 5,400 square feet. That's a boatload of wild turkeys. That's a boatload of ranch hands. That's a boatload of Ralph Sampson subs, a boatload of Nuclear subs, a boatload of Chris Long subs, a boatload of debaucherous, wasted students after hours inside the restaurant trying to order sandwiches after Coops, Trinity, and Boylan Heights have closed. $12,500. I will say it once. I've said it once, and I'll say it again. The fact that we basically have 3 people owning the UVA corner, Hunter Craig, Tip Top Terry, and a female who I've always forget her name. 3 people own the majority of the UVA corner. The rents are getting so astronomically high because only 3 people control this critically important district that district is eventually going to evolve into nothing but big box brands that can afford $12,500 a month rent. Because $12,500 a month rent, let's say it's a 5-year lease, right? 5-year lease. 5 times 12 months is 60 months. 60 times $12,500. You're looking at a 5-year lease commitment of $750,000. That's before you're paying employees, before you have to get COGS, cost of goods, insurance, meals taxes, all the other jazz. $750,000 in rent alone over a 5-year term.
Yeah.
Who locally can afford that?
I can't imagine anyone can afford that.
We know you know this. You have some insights that a lot of the viewers and listeners don't because you work in the office. You know we've been brokering a lot of business deals lately. We're doing one now. We're not going to say which one we're brokering. But in the process of brokering these deals, I called the traditional cast of characters to see if they were interested in buying the restaurant we were trying to sell.
Yeah.
One of the conversations I had was with Wilson Ritchie, and we already knew this answer. Wilson Ritchie, Revolutionary Soup, the Whiskey Jar, the Bebedero, Wilson Ritchie Pie Chest, Alley Light, Wilson Ritchie 10-Course Hospitality. I mean, the most prolific restaurateur in Charlottesville is Wilson Ritchie. So I said, Wilson, you interested in buying this restaurant? The financials are fantastic. You know what he said to me? He said, unless I can buy the real estate, I'm no longer interested.
Yeah.
I'm not going to rent anymore. That's what he said to me.
That's a much bigger problem than just with businesses.
Walk me through your thinking there. What do you mean by that?
I mean, you were just talking about rent prices with the guys on Real Talk with Keith Smith. and we know that they've been blowing up. So what do you do? Like, what does anyone do? What does a business do when you're looking at $750,000
for 5 years in rent?
For 5 years in rent. What do you do if you're
you probably don't open. Don't open there.
What do you do if you're a person looking at rent prices in Charlottesville and saying, am I really going to spend
$2,000 a month for a 1,200 condo?
Am I really going to spend half or more of my monthly income just paying for rent?
So what do?
You go somewhere else.
And do what?
Look for a place that's not so expensive.
Go to Danville. I love Danville.
Possibly.
Travis Hackworth, are you watching here? New River District. I love everything that Danville stands for. Danville doesn't have the job market that Central Virginia does.
Does Central Virginia have a great job market?
It depends on your skill set. I mean, if your skill set is finance, private equity, law, if your skill set is engineering, STEM, yeah. If your skill set is more blue collar, probably not.
Yeah.
Am I misreading that? Kevin Yancey in Waynesboro. Sheets could not make it work, nor could CVS.
Because you need
$750,000.
You need a lot of UVA students marching through your door to cover that kind of rent.
Not only that, you have to have a phenomenal balance sheet, because they don't just accept any Tom, Dick, and Harry in places that are $12,500 a month in rent. Okay? You and I, you know this company has 24 rentals. 24. Many of them are executive office space. Before I agree to a lease with a tenant on an executive office space, I'm having somewhat of an idea if they can afford the monthly rent over the course of 1 or 2 years by looking at some kind of financial information. If you own the LittleJohn's building and you're asking $750,000 over 5 years, you're going to audit and vet the potential tenant's financials. And not many that are not big box, corporately owned brands have the balance sheet or the financials to reflect a $750,000 commitment, especially as we head into a recession. I'll say it again on this program. 3 people owning the UVA corner is driving rents to a clip that are not approachable or realistic for the local business in this market. And as a result, you're going to have a generation, maybe 2, of university students that got big box brands instead of locally owned like I had going to college at UVA. There were no big box. I'm trying to think here. I was 2000 to 2004. What big box brand was on the corner in 2000 to 2004? I can't think of one.
2000 to 2004?
I can't think of a big box brand that was on the UVA corner while I was at the University of Virginia. When I was at the University of Virginia, Plan 9, the record store?
Yeah.
Is that what it's called?
I believe so.
That was still at the corner. That was just as Napster was coming in. Remember Napster?
Vaguely.
The music,
Mm-hmm.
I guess you were stealing the rights to people's music on Napster, and that led to their demise, right? You were illegally downloading music from the internet, which was what Napster was all about.
Oh, I think that in some form or another still exists. I don't know if that's what killed Napster. I think Napster was part of the .com bubble, and businesses were thinking that they could survive on just fake what I don't even know what you call it.
Kevin Yancey says, what does it say that an owner can and will let that space sit empty? It says the owner's rich as
I was going to say,
get out.
I was going to say, if they've got the money, then yeah, they can just sit on it and wait till they get the
The perfect
offer.
tenant. That's what they're doing.
But let me ask you a question. I had one point had asked you about rent prices, and you were telling me that rent prices are just are priced by the market. That you and anyone else who is renting properties doesn't have any choice in the price that they set because the market sets the price. So how is this different?
Well, if he gets a big box brand to pay $12,500 a month to rent LittleJohn's, then the market's setting the price. I mean, if he finds a Chipotle took over the College Inn lease. Chipotle, Terry V owns College Inn, Tip Top Terry.
Okay.
Tip Top Terry got Chipotle to take the lease at an obscene rate, and then Chipotle is completely revitalizing and improving the building. So not only did Tip Top Terry find a phenomenal tenant for the College Inn building, a tenant like Chipotle is likely not going to default on the lease.
Definitely not, unless the whole company goes
Which
down.
is not going to. But he also found a tenant that's going to put hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not north of $1 million, into the building to improve it, to keep it up, or to bring it to Chipotle standards.
It's a pretty damn smart move.
Phenomenal deal. There's a reason Tip Top Terry owns real estate everywhere, and he's rich as all get out. Hunter Craig's no dummy. He's one of the smartest real estate guys in the business. They just sold Chipotle to College Inn. Why wouldn't they hold out for a similar type of tenant for the LittleJohn space?
So is the only answer to price everyone out?
If you're the landlord, why wouldn't you do that?
Okay.
Is the landlord in that scenario, the UVA corner, what's the landlord care about? Will my tenant make rent payments like the lease says? And what tenant does the Hunter Craig, Tip Top Terry, and the lady who I keep forgetting her name, what is the most important thing to them as owners of the UVA corner? Will my tenant pay the rent every month?
Okay, but that doesn't...
And if you're a landlord, wouldn't you want to lock in a big box brand now as we head into a recession than a locally owned business?
It seems, when we talk about things that are wrong with America and the situation that we're in, I feel like you're outlining a lot of it. Not a lot of it, but part of it at least. The fact that...
But is it realistic to expect the landlord to take a haircut on rent, or to take agree a deal with a tenant that he or she does not think is going to make it through the course of their lease?
Okay, but
we can't villainize the landlord here.
You're talking about two different things. You can't talk about the price that they're asking and wanting to have a tenant that reliably pays their lease are two completely different things that are not correlated.
Ray Cadell, hello. Finish your thought. I'm with you.
Yes, of course they want someone who's going to pay their rent reliably. That doesn't have anything to do with the price, except in so much as someone local.
Unless they price it to a point where only big box can afford it.
Okay, but what's your point?
If that space on the corner was $2,500 a month, we're both in agreement it would rent yesterday. The fact that it's $12,500 a month means few can afford it.
Which means that they're looking for someone outside of the Charlottesville economy.
Outside of the market. Because the people that can afford it locally, look at your most successful ones. Corin Capshaw is not going to rent that spot. I don't even think Corin wants to be in the restaurant game anymore.
Okay, but you're arguing...
Andy McClure is not going to rent that spot. He's only buying. Andy McClure, Citizen Burger Bar, the Virginian, Andy McClure, Bell, right? We know Andy McClure. He bought the Citizen Burger Bar building in Carytown in Richmond.
Right.
Wilson Rich is not going to rent it. He straight up said, I'm not renting anymore. I'm only buying.
And you've given great reasons why. Because people
I don't blame them.
Asking outrageous rent prices. Why would you want to put yourself at the mercy of a renter? Of a landlord in this economy, in this market. And so I'm not sure why you're arguing both sides of it.
The whole thing that I'm arguing is this. Kevin Yancey says a smart owner would split the space and look for two tenants who can afford the lower rent. Well said, Kevin Yancey. $12,500 is absurd, but $6,250 amongst two tenants is doable. And to justify what Yancey just did, look at what Wilson Ritchie did. Wilson Ritchie bought the Downtown Grill building. The Downtown Grill was one of the largest restaurants in the city of Charlottesville. Wilson Ritchie, and I was the first to say this on this talk show, and the tape and the show that's archived on the internet can back it up. I said when the Downtown Grill closed during COVID, I said whoever buys that space or takes over that business or takes over that building, just chop up the Downtown Grill into two and to make it a much more smaller restaurant so the rent would be lower, and that's exactly what happened. It's exactly what happened. Exactly what I said should happen is exactly what happened. Exactly what happened. Wilson Ritchie put Rockfish in there and the Bebedera. And then he's got office space on the second floor. My concern is this, before we get off this topic. Because such few people own the corner, the rents are going out of control because there's not much competition. And as the rents are getting unsustainable for locally owned businesses, you're going to have the Chipotles of the world head to the corner. We've already seen Sheetz try to do it.
But we
saw CVS try to do it. And it's going to get worse, is my point.
But aren't you also saying that they should be going for as much as they can possibly get?
You're saying the landlord. I don't blame the landlord for asking the most that they can get. My point is the dynamics of what's happening, there's such little competition on the corner from a landlord standpoint that when these people ask for these obscene numbers, they're creating a new market that only appeals to big box, that is only big box conducive.
I think that would happen regardless of how many people own property on the corner.
I think if the corner was more splintered with landlords, like each of these individual units had different owners, there'd be much more competition and it would drop the price, the rental prices. A good example of that is the executive.
It might do that a little bit, but I don't think it would.
That's definitely what happens. The executive office space. There's some executive offices above South Street Brewing Company. Remember, we used to work there before I bought in the Macklin building on Market Street. We rented from there. I follow the price points of the executive offices of above South Street Brewing Company because I know the people that come and look at my executive offices in the Macklin also are touring the executive offices in South Street. And if I'm priced obscenely higher than the executive offices at South Street, the people that are touring my space will say no to my 24 and say yes to South Street's even though mine are better. I could be priced 5% higher. I might be able to be priced 10% higher because my executive offices have fiber internet from Ting, where South Streets have not great internet, remember? It was inconsistent. But they don't have that kind of competition on the corner.
You're right, but how many openings are on the corner?
I mean, there's more.
Are there enough openings that would create that kind of
there's openings now on the corner.
I'm sure there are.
There are openings now on the corner.
But if somebody's going to rent a place like the old
LittleJohn's.
Yeah, LittleJohn's space. Are they gonna be able to, if you want someplace that big, are you gonna be able to find another place?
That's a great question. And the follow-up question to that is, do you want something that's that big?
Right. And if you don't, then where do you
go?
My point is, it's not a set of row houses on the corner that are all the same, and if John, Bob, and Steve each owned three of them in a row, that they could, fight each other on who can charge the lowest rents. They're different spaces, they're different sizes, they're different costs. I think it would be hard to have a lot of competition down there.
This is another phenomenon I want to watch. We talk about the phenomenon of UVA students going to college in Charlottesville, having a phenomenal 4 years, and choosing after the 4 years are over to stay in Charlottesville, which is what I did, or to choose to return to Charlottesville years later because their time in college was so special to them.
Mm-hmm.
The students that go through Charlottesville and UVA, as the UVA corner becomes nothing but big box brands, if it becomes big box brands, because the rents are so expensive, will those UVA students have the same memorable experience that the students who went to a corner where it was eclectic and this mix of locally owned businesses have? Will your experience as a student in Charlottesville be altered for the worse if your UVA corner is the brands and businesses that you can get at every town in America?
I think it's not going to affect much in the way of how the students see things.
I mean, I'd rather go to St. Martin's than CVS. I'd rather go to O'Neill's than Sheetz.
But you're talking
I'd rather go to LittleJohn's than Chipotle.
Yeah, but you're talking experience in looking back and seeing those things and knowing those places and seeing what the corner may become. People coming to UVA aren't going to have that perspective. They're just going to be having fun, doing their thing, and when they go to shop,
people coming to UVA have the perspective of Chipotle.
I don't know what that means.
People coming to UVA know what Chipotle is because Chipotle is in every corner in America.
Okay.
So for them to have Chipotle on the UVA corner, they'd be like, hey, this is the corner. That's a Chipotle. I have one of those at home. When it used to be, hey, that's the College Inn. Let me go try their chicken parm after hitting the bars at Coop's. Now it's going to be like, I'm hitting the bars at Coop's. Give me a couple of 3 soft, crappy tacos that I'm going to go through a line for instead of calling 977-2710.
Yeah.
I still remember the number.
I understand that, but nobody is going to have that perspective coming into it. They're going to be living in the middle of their own college experience, and they're not going to look around and say, "Oh man, I wish this place that I've never been to that used to be there was there now instead of some place." Like, I mean, when I was in college, I may have gone to places that were local and locally owned. I also went to, McDonald's or, the movie theater or just, whatever businesses were around. That's where I shopped. That's where I ate. When you're 18, 20 years old.
It's much more of a pleasurable college experience to patronize businesses that you cannot find at your home.
But again, nobody thinks that when they're in college.
Yes, they do. I thought that way when I was in college.
Sure.
I did. Doug Easter, welcome to the program. I thought that, do you think if I had my choice of going to a Ruby Tuesdays for happy hour or to go to St. Martin's or Buddhist or Orbit's or Boylan Heights for happy hour, you think I would have gone to the Ruby Tuesdays and gotten a salad bar and a draft? Or I would have gone to St. Martin's and drank my beer out of a frothy mug that was hanging on the hook with my name on it?
I mean, that's a pretty good argument. But if you've never had one of those things, then the other one...
Customer service, personalization, hospitality, local flair, everyone's had that. Everyone's had that.
I have never had a personalized mug at a bar.
Kevin Yancey, new experiences in college are not the same thing you can get while at home. I agree with him. You're going to college to not eat Chipotle, whatever it is, Chipotle on the UVA corner. You're going to college so you don't have to eat Wawa like you do every time you're on a family vacation and you get a made-to-order sub while on vacation.
That is an incredibly interesting perspective because a lot of people going to college don't have the option or the money.
It's $85,000 a year for out-of-state students to go to the University of Virginia. Okay. $85,000 a year. I think using the money argument when it comes to the University of Virginia, in-state students are at $55,000 a year. The people who are going to UVA for college are not having an issue with money. They are the wealthy. They are wealthy.
You said it, not me.
We all know this.
Okay.
We all know this. Does anyone think the students at the University of Virginia are poor? Some are on financial aid or scholarship. But for the most part, does anyone think the students at the University of Virginia are coming from families that are poor? I play squash with a UVA professor. And I asked him this question. He's a history professor. 85, I won't use his name. I said, so-and-so, it's 85,000 for out-of-state, 55,000 for in-state. He said, Jerry, interrupted me mid-sentence. College has always been for the wealthy. It's just worse now.
Well, then I'm afraid you're not really convincing me of anything, because if rich UVA students are missing out on an experience because landlords who want to inflate the prices and sell out to big brand stores, I mean, I don't care.
What, you don't care about the rich UVA students or the rich landlords?
I don't care about rich UVA students missing out on the St. Martin's experience because there are a bunch of landlords who are pricing locals out of the corner.
I care about that. Lynn Snyder says this: it's not just college. Charlottesville is known for its food choices, not Chipotle, but original choices, and the downtown mall will soon be the attractor for those students. I think she's right. I think the downtown mall is becoming more of an attraction for students than ever before. They got iPhones, and they got Uber, and they got scooters, and they got public transportation to get downtown. More information than ever at their fingertips, and easier than ever to get to the places that are the information on their fingertips.
Yep.
The obscene rents at the UVA corner are tailwinds and positive news for businesses on the downtown mall. Because the obscene rents on the UVA corner will eventually only cater to big box brands like Chipotle and Wawa and Sheetz and CVS. And because of that, the students will want a Charlottesville experience, and they'll head downtown and they'll leave the corner.
Yeah.
A couple of other topics on the show today. I want to get this out of and then we'll get to what did Judah learn. So you're coming up with what did Judah learn today, so have that ready to go. A little scheduling note: Friday of this week, Melissa Close Hart's going to be on the show. So in 2 days, Melissa Close Hart will be a guest on the I Love CVille show. She's the executive chef and part owner of Mockingbird, the new restaurant that's going to open in downtown Belmont. It's the reimagined version of Junction Restaurant. Melissa Close Hart in studio on Friday to talk about the menu, the business, the mission, and what we can expect and more from Mockingbird in downtown Belmont. Last item out of my notebook, and then we get to what Judah learned today. There's a Richmonder, someone who graduated from St. Chris, that is about to be named the head coach of the Utah Jazz. His name is Will Hardy. Will Hardy is a class of 2006 graduate of St. Christopher's, a prestigious private school in Richmond. He played college basketball at Williams College. He started as an intern for the San Antonio Spurs, and maybe later today, at the age of 34, he will be the youngest head coach in the National Basketball Association, with multiple sources saying he will be named the head coach of the Utah Jazz. Richmonder Will Hardy about to get announced as the head coach of the Utah Jazz. Judah Wickower, what did you learn today?
Well, let's see, a few things. We have new marijuana laws on the books, but prosecutors don't expect it's going to have a lot of impact. The big one is that being caught in public with 4 ounces or more of marijuana, which is quite a bit for those.
4 ounces is a lot.
Yeah.
That's a quap. That's a QP. That's a quarter pound.
That'll end up being a...
It's called a quap on the street. A quap.
I wouldn't know.
It's called a quap.
But it could, let's see, it's $500 fine. Subsequent offenses would be punishable with 6 months in jail and up to $1,000 fine, which was previously, this was previously a $25 civil penalty.
4 ounces was a $25 civil penalty?
For being caught with less than a pound. So they've upped the stakes, but we've got...
I mean, they set the threshold at a pretty reasonable level for personal possession. If you have under 4 ounces, you're saying you're fine?
Yeah. And Charlottesville Commonwealth's Attorney Joe Platania said, we're focused on public safety, and so if it impacts that, we'll pay more attention to it, but I don't expect to have much of an impact in Charlottesville.
No.
And
I don't think so either.
Albemarle County Commonwealth's Attorney Jim Hingley agrees. So it's good to hear some common sense.
Yeah. I'll tell you what's not common sense is for an average Joe or an average Betty to be walking around Charlottesville and Albemarle County with 4 ounces of weed on their person. That doesn't make common sense.
Right.
Okay. I don't care if you're walking around Charlottesville City or Albemarle County with a joint or a bag in your pocket. But for you to be carrying around 4 ounces of weed, you're an idiot.
Yeah.
You're an idiot.
You're asking to get robbed.
You're asking to get robbed, mugged, arrested, something along those lines. Don't walk around Charlottesville, Albemarle County with a quap of green, because you're a moron. Don't do that. If someone's walking around with a quap, they should get popped by the law. And the charge shouldn't be having a quap in your possession. The charge should be being a moron. And that's what should be on the arrest paperwork. Being a moron is why he got popped. Anything else you learned today?
The Fed's looking at possibly another
rate hike.
50 to 75.
I mean, one of the Powell cronies was talking about a 75 bip hike. 75 basis points.
I think they're trying to decide between 50 and 75 basis points.
Oh, that's not good.
No.
Would you say that's not good?
I'd say that's not good, but at this point, what is?
Yeah. I learned today that Greene County is doing its best to attract tourism to Greene. A glamping, upscale camping, glamorous camping, glamping special use permit was approved by a 3-2 vote last night.
Yeah.
During the Tuesday night Greene County Board of Supervisors meeting, many in the county attended this meeting and proceeded, as the 3-2 vote was coming to play, to scream at the supervisors, calling them traitors and other nasty words during the meeting.
It's always a great way to get your point across, I find.
Yeah. Let's go to a meeting. Let's scream from the back of the room while other people are screaming from the back of the room. It just turns out to be noise. No one can understand what you're saying. You don't put a name to what you're saying. You just look like a lunatic screaming in the back of the room. Good job. That's going to be an effective way to reach your local government and get your point across. It's time that many in the old guard realize that tourism dollars and glamping is synonymous with tourism dollars are paramount to jurisdictions because they alleviate the tax burden from residents and rooftops. If we don't attract tourism dollars, aka incremental revenue to our respective jurisdictions, the burden falls on rooftops and homeowners. And if you want the jurisdiction to truly be approachable and affordable for all, you remove the tax burden from rooftops, because taxes on rooftops are synonymous with gentrification. And gentrification is an ugly, ugly thing. And that's happening right now in Charlottesville and Albemarle. That's the show. Judah, you did a hell of a job today. Judah Wickhauer is the director. My name is Jerry Miller, and it's the I Love CVille Show on a Wednesday. Good Lord. On a Wednesday afternoon. We'll see you tomorrow at 10:15 a.m. with Today y Mañana. You guys have a good afternoon. Take care.